just locally.
Great. So with that started, let me see. I think everyone on the call today has been around for a while. So let's just dive into the triage. Actually, did anyone have an issue today that they really wanted to bring up for discussion before we get started using the board, which is linked in the chat? Sounds like no, so I'll just go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see triage party there? Okay, great. So, starting from the top here, the converted strings, I'm pretty sure we actually saw this one last time, so I'm not sure why it's coming up again. It is assigned to me. I haven't, I see it's because we have a new comment that it's the quotes being lost inside the SIG's YAML library, which is not surprising, but this is actually a fairly big issue that I haven't had time to get back to. It could affect anything that's supposed to be a string field, regardless of the source. Like, we're actually losing the fact that the user explicitly got it as a string inside their customization. But so we can't solve it at that layer. Anyway, that is triage. It is assigned to me. I will get back to it.
Katrina, can you bump your font a little bit?
Yes. How about that?
Thank you. That's perfect. I think
Great.
you'll have to do the same for GitHub, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
So here, Knative serving. Interesting. Haven't seen this one. The YAML anchor fix. Yes, we were very excited. We on Monday, we released Kustomize with the YAML anchor fix that we've talked about at several previous bug scrubs. It was one of the most requested feature fixes for the past months. So that was a fun release that we did on Monday. So it sounds like this user tried it out. These errors are so long. Oh my gosh. It's just dumping the object there. Okay. Yeah. Unsupported. This is the same error. It happens in a couple of circumstances. I know we have other issues that mention this particular error, which is very unhelpful. So this could be a duplicate one of those. That's something you might want to look into. Is this the integer keys error potentially? Domain mapping webhook. Oh no, it's just, it's not, that's okay. That would be my guess, that it's this here. Because we have a problem with support for integer keys that aren't quoted.
It might be the case that in case of an integer key, it has to be quoted.
Yeah.
So that it's treated as a string and not as a number. So basically something similar to the first issue that we looked earlier.
Yeah. Are they saying that this is still not working as well? Yeah, they are. So they're reporting two issues at once here, I guess. They're saying that their anchor isn't expanded. Would I be able to, I'll reference them to try out quoting their integer key for the second problem. But is anyone interested in trying out their example to sort of dig into why the anchor thing is still not working for them? Don't want to do it live on the call, so could be interesting to dig into if someone is looking for an issue.
Maybe we can ask Jeff to take a look because he was working on the anchor thing.
Yeah, that's fair. Integer key under, yeah. Please try quoting it. If Jeff doesn't have time to do that, another thing we could ask for is as a unit test. Sometimes we do that, right, for regression tests for particular samples that don't work. So oh no, Windows support. We currently are not releasing for Windows. It's worth noting we haven't been for a few because the release pipeline for Windows is broken and it's difficult for us to fix it, but Natasha is steadily working on that problem. Failure and plugin configured via file does not exist. Is that the same path? I think so. Oh, I should be sharing the links. I'm sorry. Here's what I'm looking at. Expected file with Go object code at something or another. So interesting. Yeah, that's probably correct because it falls back on looking for a Go plugin if it doesn't find an exec plugin at all. So my thoughts on this one are that this is about the old style exec generator as opposed to the KRM style one that's newer. And the KEP that we have open right now proposes deprecating this style of plugin in general. So I really don't think it's going to be worth the investment to make it work on Windows if it hasn't, given that we're proposing removing it entirely. Does anyone disagree? Especially with the Windows issue, it's very difficult for us to dig into as a team because we don't have anyone who has a Windows-based development environment on the team, which we would really love to have to help us maintain the Windows releases correctly. I'll assign it to myself to respond.
Sounds
If
good
it-
to me.
Yeah, if anyone incidentally has a Windows setup and would be able to help us out with Windows stuff in general, that would be amazing. We're really looking for a contributor in that area. Patch specific, here's the link. Specific list element targeted by element attribute. So this is probably kind support since it's tagged question. Let's see. They should just be using a strategic merge patch instead of a JSON patch, no? And they'll need to do that, they'll need to provide the schema for the pipeline that they're using, since that's, well, it sounds like it must be a CRD. So the container elements will not be merged correctly unless they provide the schema, but I think that would be the recommended solution. Let's merge correctly. You will also need to provide the schema for the pipeline. Did they give us the name? No, tech pipeline. Run type. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Wow, our docs really do not have good SEO. Thank you,
I just
Natasha.
have it in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so we want to show them patches strategic merge here, probably. For and then the Open API field. All right.
Did you mean to say pipeline run or pipeline spec?
That's the Tectine pipeline run definition.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
got the name. Okay. Uh-oh, another ordering question. I think we have a canonical issue for this somewhere, saying that we are not going to mess with the existing orders. There is an open PR that introduces a field that allows you to customize that. That PR has been open for a fairly long time. Natasha, any chance you remember what the issue title for that one was?
I think it's called legacy order configuration or something.
This one, probably. Let's check it out.
make legacy resource ordering customizable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm going to close it as a duplicate. We will not be changing the legacy order. Legacy order, but there is an open PR proposing customizable ordering. So the PR, yeah, nope. I think most of the history is actually right. Okay. That would allow you to customize it yourself. Any objections to just closing? Oh, I double closed it again. Duplicate is apparently the wrong triage kind. Triage duplicate. Okay. Multi-line values. Oh, there you go. Link. Multi-line values receive injected new lines in the middle of the value in the output of customized build. Interesting. Multi-line strings. Okay. Ooh, this is very long. Which do you say which?
I have to go to physio.
Must be this part. And actual output. See the new line between. So this is the issue. Interesting.
I'm gonna guess this is something in our Go YAML library.
Oh wow, I even really like the person created a unit test that you can reuse towards the bottom.
Yeah, that's good. I was trying to remember there was a point where we were experimenting with making another patch to GoYAML, and we were seeing something around multi-line strings changing, but I can't remember the details.
I think that was different. That was for single quoted strings. The new lines in single quoted strings weren't being preserved, which we discovered is fine according to the YAML spec. I think this one is different. This one seems like an actual issue.
Yes, you're right. That is what I'm thinking of.
We did find an issue sort of like this when we originally made the fork. Let me try to find it.
I think we should probably go ahead and accept this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. It's probably, well, it must be coming from GoYAML, not from us. I don't think anything that we do would cause a bug at this low level.
Mhm.
This is GoYAML. Or, yeah. Yeah, this is another one where I think I'll just assign myself to respond. We're proposing deprecating Starlark support, direct Starlark support as well. So it's another thing that we wouldn't end up specifically enabled. That said, the exec functionality, so this is the Carum flavor of plugins, so it's in the right family, but specifically Starlark is proposed for deprecation. Exec works super similarly and has many of the same classes of problems. So I'll take a look at the code to see if the reported issue would also affect exec. I think exec, like they can just, if they know, the problem is probably knowing where they're being invoked from. It's invoked relative to the parent customization. So knowing what the file ref means if they're using a relative path inside the function config itself. Anyway, I'll assign myself. Is it possible to rename labels? Sounds like I think I agree with Kelly here that it's possible through the sequence of steps outlined, and I don't think we would have a dedicated feature for doing that, something that specific.
maybe it would be reasonable to set up some kind of a policy that which would be basically similar to what we did with kubectl plugins. Start as a plugin. If you prove your usefulness, as in there will be many people using it, we can consider it, pulling it into the core. I think it's a good policy and it worked well for a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right now, it's pretty difficult to use that strategy in practice because of the way that customized plugins are. Well, they're all in alpha. There's so many different ways of doing them, and there's no recommendation even for a distribution. But I think if the KEP that we have open merges, then that will be a really reasonable suggestion in a lot of cases like this. We could make it official. So kind support. This is a great use case for a plugin. Sound good? All right. What does the line field represent in a YAML node? The value is different than the line I expected in my usage. That's a very low level question. Interesting. I don't know offhand. I have no idea why that wouldn't be the correct line number. Do you have any ideas, Natasha?
I have no idea.
Because it's coming from the Y node, that is definitely going to be a Go YAML thing. The only idea that comes to mind is that like we do inject additional metadata behind the scenes, but that's under annotations, like the build annotations, for example. We're actually kind of messing with the object in an intermediate stage and then stripping them back out. But that shouldn't interfere with the line of the metadata itself. And in fact, I wouldn't expect it to affect the line at all because it's not actually emitted as a document in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Just wondering what to do with that. Like, I don't, it's just a question and they're not asking us for a particular feature, but it's definitely about Go YAML. I think if we sent them over to that repo, they wouldn't get an answer there either. So
If you want, you can assign it to me. I can try to investigate and respond to them.
That would be great. Thank you.
So I was looking at that original one for the anchors, and I don't think the anchors are the problem because I pulled out anything to do with anchors and still get that error. So I will I'll write up my comment on there.
Awesome. Thank you. I was definitely worried about the feature not working, so it's good to hear that it's probably not the issue.
Yeah, I wrote a couple unit tests too, and I was like, I don't understand what's going on because it works here. So I'll comment it.
Thank you. Link. All right. Oh, Natasha, actually, you have already commented on this
Yeah, I remember their issue, the original one, and I couldn't understand why they're doing what they're doing. They have like a base file that they just named dash, and then they add name prefixes and name suffixes to give it the name that they want. Let me try to remember. Well, they basically want to change the entire name of the base resource, and like they don't want to have to reference it. So I asked them if they wanted to do a patch, but then they didn't want to have to reference the resource in the patch target. So they just want a way to change the base resource name without having to reference it at all, which I didn't really understand the use case for when we have prefixes and suffixes.
Yeah, the name is a core part of the identifier, so I also don't understand how that would work. So I guess this is the new comment at the end here.
Like, I'm really not understanding why name prefixes aren't sufficient for what they're trying to do.
In the earlier comment, they mentioned that it changes the name. So my guess would be that this is not novel configuration. Like it's config that's already deployed a ton of places, and they're trying to change the way it's generated. So they can't, at this point, they don't have the option of changing the names on all the objects. They need to generate what's already there. Create a custom resource. References one customization file. It would be really helpful if they could give us sort of maybe like a more samples, like a tested.
They have some samples in the issue they linked in their
the first issue.
I think so. Maybe no, maybe this. Yeah, that one. Which they replied at the end. Like I gave them a solution with patches, and they were happy with it and closed this issue, but then they opened a new one.
right, because they decided they didn't actually want the name prefix. Yeah, it sounds like they have a bunch of different environments that don't have name conflicts because they're actually being deployed to different API servers. And they previously managed them independently, so that different endpoints, and now they're creating a diamond shape with that, and somehow wanted to not have name conflicts. I still don't understand, I guess, like if you have a single top level customization.yaml, how is the name conflicts not a problem? Like you do have to still segment by the deploy target, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a question we can ask them.
Just reading this one more time now that you've explained more context. Yeah, I guess we need to confirm with them that that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get no name prefixes. They're going to have the output of customized build will actually contain multiple copies of the same resources with the same name. And if so, how that's going to work. Do you want to reply to them since you've already been talking to them this whole time? Or
Yeah, I can reply to them.
thank you. All right, where are we? Configuration value, name suffix is ignored. Here's the link. Hmm. Huh. That's really interesting. It sounds like, yeah, it's because of the way we do it internally that name prefix and name suffix are surfaced as separate fields. So they look like separate transformers to the end user, but then there's a single prefix suffix transformer that gets used to deliver both features. And it sounds like they're saying, yeah, it's the configuration for it. If you override the paths that the transformer uses, we merge them instead of keeping separate lists of targets. Do you understand the same thing?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That might be a little tough to disentangle, but that sounds like a legitimate bug. We'd have to create 2 instances of the transformer, I suppose. I'm not sure how possible that is. I would really need to dig in. It's pretty in the weeds. Do you have any thoughts about how possible that would be?
That code is very, it's very complicated. Another option would be to separate them into 2 transformers, but I think that would be equally difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this seems like a legitimate bug, even if it will be hard to fix.
I agree. Yeah, let's accept it. And this would be a really interesting one to dig into, but it might take some time to fix. If anyone's interested in really getting to know the internals of how Kustomize works, this could be a really interesting one to pick up, and I would be happy to support somebody pursuing this. There's this one. Kustomize, edit, add, config map. Yeah, this needs more information. You asked that question. It sounds like they want a config map generator, or they maybe just want a parent, like a field, to be able to set more values in the single command. Unsure. That sounds like a good answer. Not working with local chart is a separate issue. So I think we can close this. This sounds related to that Starlark one we saw earlier. No, but args from file, it's related to the other exec one in the sense that it's having a problem with the legacy style plugin, not the newer style. Okay, a bunch of examples. The fix there was only for the newer style, not for the older style. I'm gonna send this to myself for that queue of explaining the plans for plugins on a variety of issues. Basically ask them in this case to try the newer style of exec, which has the fix applied already. This is an old one. It's just a series of the bot trying to retire the issue and a person reopening it. I want to customize several files with the same change. Interesting. So they want to have a customization that exists completely somewhere else be applied to a local directory in another place, so that they don't have to copy the customization that so happens is the same thing. I think we wouldn't do that, honestly, because one of the core principles of how we're designing Kustomize is for that encapsulation of the customization directory. So I would just suggest that they use a symlink if they want that behavior personally.
Yeah, I have a ton of questions with regards to security, how you should be treating the directories, whether you should be treating them locally or the base path from where you actually invoke this. And in each direction, the question still maintains how this looks security-wise. Do you want to allow escaping the context? Yeah. I would probably just reject this.
Right, okay. Okay, so we discussed this at the Kustomize bug scrub day and decided not to accept this feature. For both security and encapsulation reasons. Kustomize expects all tree of required files to exist at or below the root customization itself, which is behavior we want to preserve. Does that make sense? Actually, going to put this bit at the end. Six minutes left. We only have time for maybe one or two more. Just pasted this one in the chat. Config map or secret generators doesn't work when specified namespace. We specify a namespace in metadata. Config map and secret generator doesn't override the name of the config map with the computed one. Okay, this one has an example. It's transformer order problem, according to this. Makes sense. Yeah, I think that's the right solution. That you'd have to add another layer. Natasha, I see you removed the stale life cycle on this one. Did you have thoughts about
No,
how
I
you
think
fix
I
it?
did that. I did that, I think, because someone asked me to. I didn't carefully read this. Do you think this is an actual issue, or is the workaround sufficient?
Um, so they're saying actually generators run before transformers. So you'd think we pull in the resources, we generate the config map, and then the namespace transformer would run after that. Or maybe this is not the exact same example as the original person had, because this person is reporting an error, not deploying to the incorrect namespace. Using existing config map. Right, so in this case, they're not generating it from scratch. They're trying to use the config map generator to patch something that's incoming, so they're getting an error. Whereas I guess the original report that is causing folks to want this issue to remain open doesn't necessarily have anything to do with an incoming resource. It sounds like they're reporting that if they have a net new config map generator, then somehow it's not getting the namespace from the namespace transformer, which is surprising. Do you have a different understanding, or does that sound right?
No, that sounds right.
That I would like to try to reproduce that, because the generators do run before the transformers, so I'm definitely confused.
I'm also confused by Donnie's comment because he acknowledges that they run before transformers and then gives them a solution that seemed to work.
I think Donnie is addressing this person as opposed to the original person.
I see.
I can take a look at this one, I guess, just to try to reproduce the original problem as opposed to the other one that a workaround is provided, where they're actually dealing with the conflict instead of net new generation, which I think I agree is unintuitive if it's actually happening.
Okay, sounds good.
But with that, we are out of time. Thank you everyone for coming. Hope you all got what you were looking for, and I think we got through a lot of great triage for Kustomize, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Katrina.